KEEN just released these boots with the Bellows Flex, their patent pending feature that kind of makes these shoes or these boots bend like a straw. So we're gonna cut them in half and see what they're all about. Originally, this was going to be just a short ad in a different video talking about their new boot, but I got these boots and I thought they were so cool because technology doesn't really progress much in the boot world compared to the sneaker world. So I spent the last few days trying to convince KEEN to let me do a dedicated video on this, and they let me do it. So huge thanks to KEEN for sponsoring this video, and be sure to thank them by checking out these boots and their other boots that feature this little Bellows Flex via the link in my description. Now let's go over the boot information. So the brand is KEEN, the model is the Ridge Flex waterproof boot. The color I have is the dark olive and ketchup. It also comes in like a kind of a lime green color. They weigh 1 pound, 4 ounces. They retail for $170 and they're made in Thailand. So now let's go over the information about these boots before we cut them in half, starting with the leather. So this is a full grain chrome tan leather that's waterproof. And there's not a whole lot of leather on this boot. You know, there's a lot of different parts that are fabric and reinforced stuff, but the leather that is on here is a nice pull-up leather that is waterproof. And I don't really know how thick it is, so we'll see when we get it cut in half. Next to the lining is KEEN's lining material that's waterproof. It's called KEEN Dry. It's a breathable, waterproof liner. The construction of these is, I'm guessing, a mostly cemented construction. There's no stitches around anywhere. So the midsole is an EVA foam midsole, so you get that nice squishy feel underneath your foot. The outsole is a really soft rubber outsole. It's 5 millimeters thick. And I was actually surprised at how soft the rubber is. So it's gonna be really grippy. It might wear out faster than like a Vibram, but it's gonna be a little bit more comfortable. And then to the fit, feel, and look of these boots. So KEEN they're well known for their wider toe box boots. If we pull out this insert, or the insole, you can see how it's kind of rounded more at the toe. Get it a little closer. You know, most of them are taper off kind of to a point, but KEEN keeps their toe boxes really wide, which is super nice. I have narrow feet, and it's still, I hate having my toes squished. So people with wide feet love KEEN boots because they're always wide. And you know, they look a little bit wide, but they're not so wide that they're unbearable like some wide toe box shoes. And then this insert, speaking of inserts, is a PU foam insert, just a nice squishy insert, not super thick, but it'll give you a little bit of comfort. And then underneath the insert is a knit material that's strobel stitched to that KEEN Dry lining. And that's kind of it for the general construction of the boot. Some of the features that make this boot different than a lot of boots is like they wrap this rubber toe guard up on top of the toe, which is nice. It doesn't wear out as fast. They've got the heel lock here, which is kind of a classic mountaineering or hiking boot thing to do, where they set this loop further back so it sucks your heel into the boot so you don't get as much heel slip. And then to the one feature of this boot that really makes this boot stand out to me, that's kind of progressing the technology of boots, is that patent pending KEEN.BELLOWS FLEX. Well, it's these two spots here at the toe and around the heel that is a softer rubber that's kind of rippled like a straw, so that when you flex this boot while you walk, the two spots in a boot that flex most at that junction of the toe and at the heel, that you're not stretching and flexing and rippling leather, you're unfurling this rubber kind of like a straw does when you bend a straw. The same kind of principle. And I thought that was really unique because that's, if you look at any boot like these old Iron Rangers that we cut in half, that's always where you see the first failure, is right at the toe. Because you can see even on this boot right here, those creases slowly just become deeper and deeper. It's kind of like when you bend a wire over and over, it slowly fractures and breaks. Same thing with leather. And so that's why they've replaced those areas with this Bellows rubber here. And you might be thinking like, well, rubber wears out too, but the cool thing about this is KEEN's a big enough company. They've run extensive tests on these, and they've tested these to 1 million flexes without failure. So they're rated to 1 million flexes, 1 million steps. How much? I don't even know how many miles that is. We'll do the calculation and put it right there. But it's a lot of miles. One thing I didn't even consider until I was reading their material was that every time you take a step, it takes pressure to flex your boot. And so if you got a big, heavy piece of leather over top of that, it's taking muscle to flex that part of the toe. Versus this rubber here, it's a lot softer, it's a lot more malleable, it's really easy to flex. And KEEN says it's 60% easier to flex than a normal boot. It should be an easier boot to hike in, it should be an easier boot to walk in with spending less energy. And I'm really interested to see how this is actually structured on the inside. How thick is this rubber? And is there anything else reinforcing it to make it be able to last 1 million steps underwater? So I think that leads us to the next part of the video, which is cutting it in half after we talk about our sponsor. Privacy allows you to buy things online using virtual cards instead of your real ones, protecting your identity and bank information while you're shopping on the internet. And right now, new customers automatically get $5 towards their first purchase if you sign up. So go to privacy.com/roseanvil in the links in the description to get those $5 for free. So how does privacy work? So basically you create an account, you link your card or your bank to your account, and it generates a virtual card for you to use whenever you're purchasing things online. So in the event that your card gets stolen, it's not your actual card, it's just a virtual card, so you can turn it off at any time. And you might be thinking, that doesn't change the fact that someone stole my card and still can use my card, my virtual card. But the nice thing is you can set up limits to how much can be spent on the card for a monthly basis or a total amount basis, so that even if your card does get stolen, they're not gonna be able to use it. The thing that I like to use privacy for, aside from purchasing things online, is signing up for free trials, because you know how they have you sign up for a 14-day free trial, and the end of the 14 days they charge you? Well, with the privacy, that virtual card, you can set it to turn off whenever you want, or a spending limit, so when it comes time to charge it, it doesn't actually charge it, and you just get the free trial without getting charged at the end of it. So head to privacy.com/roseanvil to sign up for your free account. I'll put a link in the description, and don't forget you get that $5 free to go towards your first purchase. Thanks again to Privacy. Okay, we got it cut in half. Let's see what's inside. So the shoe's a lot more basic than I anticipated. It's built a lot like kind of the Redbacks and Blundstones, where you got that really soft midsole and then a harder outsole. But there's not a whole lot to it other than that. You know, you got the rubber outsole, the EVA foam midsole, and then you've got some sort of shank in here, which it doesn't necessarily need because it doesn't really have much of a heel, but it is nice to have it for when you're like climbing ladders or hitting shovels. You want some sort of shank in there. It's not a super strong shank, but at least it's something there. It's also more flat than I thought. You know, from the outside, it looks like it's got a pretty good heel on it, but the amount of heel compared to the toe isn't very much. I'd say it's even less than like a Blundstone or some of the other typical boots. And then you can see on the inside, we've got that waterproof layer with some backing on it. And let's take a quick measurement of the leather. It comes in at about 2 to 2.5 millimeters, somewhere in that range. There's a few different spots with various thicknesses, but decent thickness of leather. It's gonna last a decently long time. Anything under 2 millimeters, I get a little bit concerned about when it comes to boots. So this is a good range of thickness. And then to the Bellows Flex. So it's pretty interesting how this is all structured. So the actual thickness is only 1 millimeter thick. It's not really used in the same way as leather. You know, if it was leather that was 1 millimeter thick, I would be pretty concerned about it, because 1 millimeter thick leather at that toe, where it's gonna be creasing and pulling and compressing over and over, you're gonna wear that out pretty quick. But rubber is a little different type of material. It's got different characteristics, and the way that it's zigzagged like a straw. When you're flexing the boot, you're not actually stretching or compressing the material, you're compressing and stretching the structure of the material, which I thought was really cool. You know, and there's a reason that they use the same style of bellows in like airbags with cars, like the the shock absorption airbags in cars and other industrial applications. And then what I thought was interesting is underneath it's backed by a kind of a matted backing. I think it might just be there to add some structure so you don't get any hard pinch points that are gonna prematurely wear it out. Then for the counter, you've just got a typical counter for this price range with the cellulose-based counter. And the tongue is gusseted up pretty far too, which is nice to see. And it's also waterproof, because you know, like we saw in those Sorels, that wasn't gusseted very high, so they're only waterproof a couple inches up. These are waterproof at least up to that heel lock area. So you got quite a few inches of waterproofness. So kind of an interesting boot. I was really excited to see this from the inside and see how it's all structured. I think it's really cool that KEEN is trying to improve on the boot industry and make new innovations and advances in technology, because boots lack the advance, like boots are one of those things where it's almost favored to be traditional and not change things over making advancements in the tech. Cons of this boot, you know, there's a lot of man-made materials in it. You know, that the lining, I always prefer a leather lining, but leather's never gonna be as waterproof as a synthetic liner with waterproof like this KEEN Dry. It's gonna wear out more potentially, but you know, it's also lighter. So there's pros and cons to it. I don't always love the style of KEEN. It's a very KEEN style that's far and away from like a Nick's boots or White's or anything. You know, it's a completely different style. And some people like it, some people don't. But a lot of people love KEEN because of how comfortable they are, especially because of the wide toe box and the soft midsoles and the soft outsoles. And yeah, they're just a good all-around boot. So pretty fun. I'm glad I was able to convince KEEN to let me do this video, because it's really cool seeing this from the inside and how it all flexes and compresses almost like an accordion or a straw as you're walking. Thank you guys for everything you do. Thanks again to KEEN and Privacy. Be sure to check them out via the links in my description. And thank you guys for watching and subscribing and liking and watching all my videos. It literally is the only thing that makes these videos possible. So thank you. See ya.